Ciao friends, my name is Joey. Welcome to my channel. I'm so excited for today's video. I think this is going to be a happy project. It was for me in making all my samples. So if you need a little happiness, if you need some cheerful colors, and this is as therapeutic as stringing beads. If you like stringing, it is wrapping, textile wrapping. And with the technique, you can do so many things that are absolutely wonderful and unique in your jewelry. So I know so many people say they don't love tassels. I find that hard to understand. I really do, because I love tassels. And maybe if you make your own and they are this beautiful, maybe you would start to love tassels. But look at these guys. Aren't they absolutely stunning? And they are so fun to make. And so with this textile wrapping technique, you can also do bracelets. So here's one where I've transitioned from wrapping into some knotted pieces. This is all wrapped, and then I've added in some disc beads and glued on like a kumi end. And on this bracelet, I even made my own T-bar, my own little toggle clasp. So it comes around and clasps like this on my bracelet here. And this is what we're going to do in today's video. I'm going to do another one of these bracelets really similar to this one. I'll show you how I did my T-bar, how I transitioned from the wrapped section of the bracelet into the knotted section. And let's see, what else did I do on this? Well, I'll show you that. And then this is another version. This has no glued ends on, and I'll show you how to get, if you want your two loops to be on the end and be your connection loops, I'll show you how. And then this is another technique. This one is a little bit thicker. I'll show you all the different options. As you might have noticed, this is paracord, so it's a little bit thicker than satin cord. Which, can you see the loop there? And I'm going to show you everything here. But I wanted gold spacers, and my paracord, when it's wrapped, it is a little bit too thick for any spacer that I had. So I made some gold seed bead rings to act as spacers. And look how gorgeous this is, you guys. This is just the prettiest bracelet. I found these a long time ago, these filigree metal orange hearts. There's some like mermaid glass discs in here. I have had these little rings in my stash for a long time, some African glass rings, and this is just like so beautiful. And there's so many really cool techniques, and like I said, once you start wrapping, your mind is going to go crazy with ideas. So I'm going to show you how you end up with a decorative thread on top of the wraps, how you end up with a thread. Let's see, this is another one where I did a decorative thread on top of the wraps. And on these, if you want your thread to show when you change color and you want to create a little boho fringe like I did here, I'll show you how to do that, or how to completely hide when you change colors and not see any changes. I'll show you how to do that. So today we're going to do a bracelet and a tassel. And I have some rings out here. These are little rings made with seed beads, the magical crimping plier, and a number 2 crimp bead. I love to make these rings, and if you've been on my channel before, you're gonna say, oh my, this girl is crazy. She's still making rings, because I've done these for so many different applications. In jewelry design, the geometry of a ring is powerful, and the designs are endless, and being able to make your own any size that you want and a beaded ring is just amazing. Now this one here, my necklace add-in, this, like I said, those of you that know me and you know my channel, you know that I love base necklaces, and I have 3 or 4 of them in my favorite leather or in my favorite metal. And I'll show you what one is. Let's see, I have it here. This I just finished this project with my Magical Mystery bead box for the month. This is the pendant necklace, and I only beaded that much of my necklace because this is my base necklace. And so I have these decorative lobster claw clasps here, and I'm just going to unhook those, and that goes in my jewelry box, that pendant. And then I can add in this really colorful necklace. I am going to move this dish out of the way because I realize that it's very busy beneath the camera lens for you guys to focus on anything, but I just wanted to like show you. Look how gorgeous this necklace is. And so in today's video, I'm not going to talk to you about these beaded peyote stitch rings. If you want a tutorial on some of the rings that I've beaded here, let me know in the comments. There's just so many videos on making dimensional rings with peyote stitch, and honestly I don't even remember what I did on this one. I just kind of made this up as I went along, but it's a really simple peyote stitch ring. And the other thing that's kind of cool about this is I love my decorative diamond cut jump rings, and so again I use jump rings here for spacers to get that little kind of gold spacing look on my necklace, and the rings on my necklace are floating. So this is nice and long because I make my base necklaces pretty long, and I can you know, see my rings and play with all my different rings, my African glass rings, and do I have a check glass ring? I have an enamel ring on here, and my beaded rings. I just love this, and I love these happy colors, and I just mix them up. Like I'll choose that I wanted this to be pink, yellow, orange with a dash of turquoise. There is a tiny speck of purple in this one, but I kept basically purple and blue out of this one. And then you'll see like in my bracelet here, I did put a little splash of purple, and I have this little purple fish charm on this bracelet. So really, like, these color combinations can just be extraordinary. I've had so much fun with this. This strand of beads I just got at a little vintage shop. I was out with my friend Gail before we went to our Bead Society meeting, and look at this treasure. So you'll see I used those, and I'm going to use them again, I think, on the bracelet I'm going to do with you today. Okay, that's the overview. I have an obsession with rings. I have some orange coconut rings here left over from the curated bead box. I think I got this enamel ring from Fire Mountain Gems. These are from my local bead shop, these little pave crystal rings. And I have some pretty large hole kind of tubular rings here. These are check glass rings. I have a few African glass handmade rings in a few different colors and finishes, from frosted to glossy. And I have some check glass rings, and I have some pressed glass rings. So if you check the description box, I will put links for the things that I can link. Like these pressed glass rings are an assortment of colored rings, and I just got a whole bag of those, and I can link that for you. My check glass rings come from a website on Etsy. I can't think of it right now, but I get them from Lima Beads. I also get them from a website called Pretty Funky Beads. They have a really lovely selection of donut beads and ring beads. And there's a couple of Etsy shops that I get my rings from as well. And then of course I make some. So that's the overview. Let me take my little inspiration pieces out of my dish. And I'm going to set this aside. I just wanted you to kind of see. I actually had that on my work table while I was making my samples. So I am crazy about this necklace. I'm just absolutely crazy about the necklace. And I'm a tassel girl, so I just loved making these tassels. They're just so pretty. I'm going to lay them here for inspiration. And this is another where the rings kind of float on this bracelet. And then the bracelet we're going to do today. And so what I am using for my textile part is some satin cord, which I actually have a huge stash of this that I use for bookmarkers. And so that's what this bracelet is made out of, and you could kind of see it peeking right there. I'm going to do a pink one today. I'm also using this for my tassel. This is going to be the tassel that we make together, and that is embroidery floss. So I do silk ribbon embroidery, so I have a big bin of embroidery floss. I could never use it all up in my lifetime, and even some metallic gold floss, which is what you see here. This is one of the most difficult things to wrap because it's really difficult to hold onto, but it can be done. I added that into my bracelet. So regular embroidery or cross stitch floss will work for this. If you want to do a really expensive tassel or you can get this in silk. You can also get it in polyester, but this cotton DMC thread is what I'm using, and also Brazilian waxed cord. I have a metallic Brazilian waxed cord, which is what you see on this one. I also have this beautiful 1mm yellow, bright yellow, which is what you see here. And then this one I just love. This is a waxed cord and it's flat. And I think this is 0.5mm, but this is completely flat. And this has worked beautifully for this kind of a thing, like to embellish the top of your wraps. So I just went into my stash and, played with what I already had. And this was kind of the inspiration for all of this. I was shopping in a discount department store and I saw this and I thought, well, I guess it's a keychain. It doesn't fit on my wrist and there's no way to open it, but I really like it. But I didn't really pay much attention to that. I purchased this because I wanted to make a lanyard for my phone, and there was so much to work with on this commercially made piece. This gigantic gold lobster claw, heavy duty jump rings on this piece, these beautiful perfect gilded seashells, this adorable little articulated fish, and I can link these fish because I searched for these online and found them. So I didn't put one on this bracelet. I put this one, but I'm going to use one on the bracelet that we make together today. So I can link these guys in the description box. And then I loved this Sleeping Beauty turquoise, blue, and gold starfish charm. But I was looking at this and I thought, wouldn't that make a really pretty bracelet or a necklace? Or you could glue, like on my necklace, I glued kumi ends or cord ends to the ends of my piece because I really like the metal finishing onto the textile. You can use those loops as your connection like they did here, or you can transition like I did here from the loop into another section of your bracelet, and on this one I just glued a cord in. So that's an overview of today's project, and let's get going on it. It's so fun, you guys. I think I'm going to start out with the tassel. It's just a little bit less wrapping and they go a little bit quickly. And so I have taken a whole skein of my embroidery floss in a color that I really like, and I'm just going to lay it out here just as it is. All I did is I actually had two of this color, so all I did is pull these papers off and just it's ready to go. If you want to do a tassel out of something that is not already looped like this, like if you have yardage, you need to take something. It can be anything. Let me just grab my container that I have this is my assortment, which I will link for you guys, where I've pulled these glue-on end caps. But you just want to take anything that you can wrap around and just wrap around and around and around and then slide it off. If you don't have a skein, that's what you can do. Okay, this is so easy, but there are, like anything, there are tips and tricks that make it look better and more fun, and I'm going to try to share those with you as we go. So I'm going to start with that, and then I have selected the colors that I want my wraps to be. And on this tassel, it's going to be a little bit of everything. I have orange, I have two pinks. Do I even up? This was I didn't want this one in there. Oh yeah, this was my embellishment. So this is the other thing. I've separated my embroidery thread. I set this up for this video yesterday and I don't remember what I did already. This is half of a strand. So if you don't know embroidery thread, there are 6 little threads entwined in each one of these like larger strands. So you can separate them, like when you're doing cross stitch, you only want like 2 of them. So it depends what you're stitching with, but I have separated one of these really bright pink ones in half. So this one is going to be the embellishment, like what I did here to lay on top of my wraps. So I have yellow, orange, green, and let me get to the proper end. Okay, I just tied it loosely because what I want to share with you is that how much space you leave here, that is going to be the length of your tassel. So you can see, you can do them shorter, you can do them a little bit longer. That's about what I did on that one. And you need to leave yourself some trimming space as well. So that's about where I want to be for this tassel. Maybe pull it up just a little bit. And now I'm going to tighten all my strands down. And you really want to try not to have a big knot. So I'm not actually going to do a knot. This is just going to be a single tie because you want to be able to hide this. And so from here, whoops, let me go this way. Nope. What I want to do is get my length to be here. I'm going to wrap in this direction, and these extras and my tie, this will eventually just get cut away. So it's just going to hang out. And now you want to choose your first color, whatever you think you want that to be. And I think, let me get one of my longest strands. I used some leftovers. I used a little bit of leftover. So my yellow is really long. So I'm going to separate out my yellow strand. I forgot to tell you that you will need a big eye needle. So I have an assortment of big eye needles here, and it's like a really thin little wire with a pretty big open center. So you will need to have a big eye needle handy on your table for doing this. And so what I was saying is you don't want to wrap this super tight, because you will need to run a big eye needle underneath your wraps to tuck your thread. So let me just get it going here. You want it to be tight because the saddest thing would be for any of this to come unraveled. So you want it to be tight, but you don't want it to be so tight that you can't work with it. And I'll show you after I get some wraps in that you want it to be neat, because to me the beauty of this is that it's very neat and the colors just magically change from one color block to the next. And so after every couple of wraps, since I have a lot of long threads off to the edge, I'm just running my hand down to make sure that I'm not creating a tangled twist off the side of my work table here. Now, if you have a really long big eye needle like I do, if you want to, you can go ahead and lay it in and wrap over. That will save you having to poke it back through. You can do it both ways. Okay, so keep in mind on a tassel, you don't have that much space. Now on a bracelet, you'll have, or a necklace, you can, change colors a lot of times. So I think that's going to be enough yellow, because on this end, I want to have the same amount here. So I'm going to go ahead and end my yellow. So I'm going to open up my big eye needle. and put my other end through. Just holding my thumb and forefinger over it, and now I'm just going to pull. If you need your pliers to get it through. So, and just keep this nice and neat. Careful not to get a tangle, and just pull. Just pull, and you can also, why I said don't do it too tight is you can scrunch everything together after you have wrapped. And so from here, if you wanted to tie a knot and do like, or do a little bow, or like what I did on these is tied a knot on the top and did some boho fringe, you can. On my tassels, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to take a really sharp pair of scissors and trim. And then you can just, like with your fingernail or your pliers, just tuck that in. Okay, I'm going to release my big eye needle because I'll need it for my next strand. So if you're doing a bracelet or a necklace, it's nice to have the extra. And you could also have left the yellow and switched. I'll show you how to do that. I was done with the yellow, so I took that off of there. But it's the pink that I'm going to end up tying back to my tassel, if that makes sense. And I just want to keep everything nice and straight, all these threads. Okay, so now I'm going to find my next color, which I think it's going to be the orange, because I have a really nice long orange strand. So I'm going to pull my orange strand out, and here I am also going to pull my green out, because my green is just an embellishment. It's a shorter strand, so I'm going to pull that out and let that hang out just right in the middle. My other colors are just laying here on this side, and I'm going to start wrapping with the orange. So exactly the same thing. I'm just going to start wrapping, and see my green is poking out because I'm going to lay the green on top. Okay, I had put my big eye needle in here to pull this through, but I wanted to show you another way to do the transition. So I'm just going to stop wrapping on my orange, and I'm going to go get my next color, which I want to be my light pink. Just pull my light pink out. So I've done wrapping on my orange, and I'm just going to zhuzh it up. See how easy it slides. And I will say, like the Brazilian waxed cord, the wrapping is different on that. It doesn't slide as well because it's got wax on it. And so I've just like tightened that up a little bit, and I'm just going to let my last wrap just sit there. And now I'm going to take my pink, and I'm going to wrap in the opposite direction so that I can pick up this wrap on top of this orange cord to hold it in place. So just going to go in the opposite direction. I know my fingers are in the way, but I don't want to let go of this. It doesn't unravel crazy, but I do want to hold my tension. So I'll show you what I'm doing here. Can you see where I'm just picking up, I'm just letting my one color, my orange color, and I'm just encasing it in the next wrapping color. And I'm going to pull this orange now and let it hang out with my tassel section and resume wrapping. And like if you get a little space like that, don't worry, because after you get a few wraps in, you saw how easy it is to push your wraps together. Okay, I've come to the end of my pink, so I'm just going to open my big eye needle and get my pink through there. Is holding everything with my thumb and forefinger, and I'm just going to pull that through and just keep everything neat. Make sure it doesn't get in a knot. Just pull it through just like that, nice and neat. You can scrunch it up a little bit if you want. Pull, pull here to check your tension. And a nice sharp pair of scissors. Careful not to nick. I've done that. If you nick your wrapped thread, it's like bleeding. You just, it's a mess. Don't do it. Be really careful. And I'm just going to tuck it in and okay, let me release my needle so it's ready for the next thread. And like I said, I don't waste, because this can very easily be another wrapped situation. Okay, and now this is really pretty much ready to go. And what I do when I fold them is where I began, where my knot is, I try to put that on the inside of my loop. So I just want to see what this is looking like. It looks really beautiful. But before I do that, I want to do my embellishment. So my green is coming out, and I'm just going to do like a spiral, like a candy cane look with the green, and go right down to the end. Now from here, you can pull this green back up inside the way we've been doing, but I have plenty of thread here, so I'm just going to get it tied off. For me, I'm just going to tie it to this orange one. Just tack it down, just like that. Just tie it in there. And now I will do a little knot. And I will say that if you wanted to use a little knotter's glue, beater's glue, you can. I haven't found it necessary. They really stay together if you do a nice, neat job. But I did use it on my bracelet when I changed, and I'll show you like the application where I felt like a little glue was a good thing. Okay, so I'm just going to get that secured just like that. Look how gorgeous that is. And we are ready to bring it together. I'm going to get this knot inside, and I'm going to make my loop part now, form it into a really pretty loop. And now I'm going to tie to my first pink, that long strand of pink that I left out. I'm going to tie to that with anything really, it doesn't matter. I guess I'll grab this orange and just tie them together. And then you guessed it, we're going to wrap on top of that and make this this little section. Now I put beads on top when I was done, and I'll show you how I did that, but I'm just going to tie them together and come around to this side and tie it nice and tight. So now I have plenty of orange and plenty of green left. I can go ahead and I'll leave these. I like to trim everything at the end, but I think I'm going to use the green. I have plenty of green, and I think I'm going to use the green to do my final little bundling here. So I'm just going to come right here and start wrapping. And after I get a few wraps in, I'm going to lay my big eye needle, making sure all my threads are smooth. I'm going to lay it in there and wrap over the needle a little bit. This can be a little bit tighter than the rest that we've done, and I'm kind of looking at both sides because it's a tassel, so there isn't a front or back. It needs to look good and be wrapped beautifully on both sides. So I'm going to check both sides and find it and just pull that right through. Pull that right inside. That looks amazing. Take my needle off. I normally do my trimming over a trash can because when you get a bunch of little threads all over your work surface, it's hard to clean them up. But I'm going to come right here again, really careful not to snip my wrapped threads. I just want to snip my other threads, my tail threads. Okay, you could be done there. It's gorgeous. I mean, you can totally be done there, but I love to add some beads onto the top of my tassels. So I literally have some leftover seed beads from my boho fringe bracelet that I did about a week ago. That is all that I have left of the beads I used for the fringe. They're just 11-0, and I threw all the colors together, and I'm going to put some 11-0 Tohos out here as well. And I'm going to take a piece of 26 gauge wire, and it's really, really, really fine wire, and I'm just going to poke it down through my wraps right down in the middle, and I'm going to get a couple of wraps around my tassel with my wire. Just a couple. You can go on top of each other or down over your threads. I'm going to go down over my threads, and I'm starting down at the bottom because I really like this technique where I go up one side of my loop with my seed beads. So I'll show you how I did that. And I'm just creating a little pattern. Like on this one, I did 3 of the colored seed beads, 2 gold, 3 colored, 2 gold. On this one, I did 3 and 1. So you can just create like a little seed bead pattern or let them be random. But I'm going to start with 2 gold. Okay, when you have some on, feed them right down to where you want to start your embellishment. I'm going to start right about there and keep it tight and wrap around. Keep your seed beads pushed down tight on your wire. I mean, unless you want to see some of the wire, I kind of like the seed beads being wrapped like that, and you can see where you are, and I need more. Okay, so I have it really tight, And now I'm going to go in between my loop and just wrap around one time with my wire, and then I'm going to switch to just gold seed beads. I'm going to just go up in here like that and just come around with my wire. So it looks like that. Like I said, I'm always checking front and back so that everything looks neat and it's embellished and everything's laying the way I want. So it looks like that. Actually, I have like just a few of my colorful seed beads left. I normally like to just switch to my metallic, but I think I'm going to go ahead and use these up. So I'm just pushing my seed beads with my finger back here so that my wraps are nice and tight. And I think I'll do another little ring of gold, and then I'll show you how I finish this off. A really cool little technique. Seed beads down as I wrap. And I'm going to come around here right where my wire meets up with my gold. And I'm going to run my wire through 2 or 3 seed beads again and snip it off. That's the reason for the 26 gauge wire, because these are 11/0 seed beads and you can actually get 2 passes of wire through. So I'm just really sewing the wire back through. I'm going to try not to kink my wire because I do want to be able to pull this tight and keep my seed bead thread or wrap, you know, nice and neat so it coils around my tassel really beautifully and finishes beautifully. So I'm going to get my pliers and give this a tug, get all my seed beads to line up where I want them so it intersects right there, and that looks beautiful. And I'm going to snip this right where it's exiting that, right where it comes out of that seed bead. And now it can go, it's wire, so now I can go with my fingers or, you know, pliers, whatever, to just make everything lay just the way I want it, just the space that I want. And check front and back because it is a tassel. So it, no matter which way this tassel is dangling, it just, it's just beautiful. I mean, I just love that. I mean, if you don't love tassels, you know, how can you not love tassels? So you'll see throughout my whole project, and I've shown this so many times, so unless you're brand new here, you've seen this before, but these are stainless steel diamond cut jump rings. All of these jump rings, it's either 600 or 800 pieces in this set, and it's very inexpensive. Silver plated and gold plated, and there's 4 sizes of each. This one I forget is like 14 millimeter, and it goes all the way down to like 5 millimeter. So it's so wonderful. That is what I used for as spacer beads on my necklace. The diamond cutting is just so beautiful, and that's what I've used for my attachment on all my tassels because I just think it's so pretty. So I'm going to choose this really big one. Okay, these tassels are so gorgeous. And that could actually be your pendant. It's just beautiful. But also if you wanted to do, like I still have it here, if you wanted to put an oversized lobster claw clasp and make a keychain out of it, I think this would also be lovely at the end of a bookmarker. And I just love the happy colors. I love how it changes colors. You can do your loops a little bit bigger and more stately, or a little bit tighter like I did this one. They are just wonderful. Okay, let's jump into the bracelet project. So this is the bracelet that we're going to do, and what's fun about the way that I did this is I didn't so much worry about my wrapped section of my bracelet because I knew that I was going to make up what I needed in length with a knotted and beaded section that I'm going to add in. So I also want to get that set that I showed you before because I'm going to be taking my pink satin cord and folding it in half for this bracelet. So this loop will show just the way, and that's where we will start wrapping. But when we come to this end, we need a pretty cap to glue onto the end. So let's choose one. Okay, I like this one. So both my ends fit in there really well. But I am not going to put this on until the very end because some of the rings will not go over this, but you will be able to squish them over this. And you know, I design these as I go. So the one thing I will do is take my little thread zap, or not thread zap, just want to melt the ends of this a little bit, just so that they don't fray and come unraveled as I'm, you know, running things on and off here. So we are going to start the same way. Now, like I said, I have a lot of colors here, and if you do it this way where they're all laying in the design and you end up not wanting a color, you can always just trim it away. On this bracelet, I did not do the method that I showed you on the tassel. On this bracelet, I did small little sections and then ran my, you know, pulled my thread back through and put a little dot of beater's glue under each section. And it works. It is one method of doing it, but I think I'm going to do that same thing where I lay all my threads in here. But I am going to fold them in half and do a lark's head knot. Green and yellow. And my yellow is quite a bit longer, but I'm going to do that lark's head knot over this loop with just those 3 colors to start my wraps. So just use your mat, lay it flat, and pull all your strands through that loop. Okay, so I'm just going to pull it tight like that. That is still a little bit chunkier than I want, but I think I can make that work. I really want all these colors in here, and I'm going to pull this down to about the loop that I want. You can see you just really need enough to get a jump ring or a seed bead loop or whatever that's going to be the connecting. So I'm just going to pull that nice and tight, and I am going to start wrapping with my orange. And I'm going to take both of these strands, pull them off to the side here. Neatness counts with this. And I'm going to let my other ones hang out on my satin cord and start wrapping. And I'm pulling in the opposite direction of my lark's head knot. So can you see? I'm not going around that way. I'm pulling in the opposite direction. And I'm going to start my wraps. And just pull those threads through. Get your pliers to help you if you need to. Okay, and you can straighten everything out, push your wraps together or pull them apart a little bit, whatever you need to do. And so here's where, if you wanted to, and on some of my work, I have used my precision tip on my beader's glue to put a little tiny bit of glue in where I'm going to cut my thread. I don't feel like it's necessary. I guess you'd have to decide on your wraps. I'm going to push everything up a little bit. And here's also where, if you wanted to tie this into a knot and make some little boho fringe, I'll go ahead and do it on this one just to show you. So if you wanted to go ahead and tie a knot and make a little fringy area, you can, like, just tie it just like that. Do a second knot. Just like that. And then come with your scissors and trim and make some little fringiness you can for an extra embellishment. Then, you know, just like separate your threads a little bit. So you can totally do that, or you can hide it the way we have been. Okay, and now it's just a matter of choosing the next color that I'm going to wrap. And if at this point, like if at this point you wanted to thread on some beads, you could. You know, like, I know that both strands go through this spacer bead, and if I wanted to pull it up, like start with a bead and pull it up to where I'm at, because I know I want at least one of those on my design. You can really design this as you go. Like, what I do is put I am going to pull the rings that I love in the colors that I love, and I checked for my sizes to see that most things would work, and, you know, kind of build it, like start and build it. So I'm going to do the same thing here. I'm going to, in fact, I'm going to slide this out of the way and do my lark's head loop, lark's head knot here with the blue, and slide that spacer cylinder bead right on top. And it's just a good way to hide where I'm going to start wrapping the next color. But as you can see, you don't have, you know, you don't have to have a bead to hide it if you do a neat job, because that lark's head loop is underneath that end. But I'm going to just push this bead over. In fact, I'm going to pull this through the bead as well so that I can start wrapping on the other side of it. For newer people who are not familiar with my description boxes, I have two sections under this video. If you tap more under the video title, one of them says my current favorite findings. So my favorite diamond cut jump rings, 2 different types are there. All the things that you regularly see me grab for all the time. If I found something good that I'm using a lot right now, I list it there. And then beneath that, there's a box that says my favorite tools. And I always have this selection. It is amazing, big eye needles. It's a whole tube, all different lengths of big eye needles. And that is always linked there. And anything else that you've seen me, my pliers, like anything else that you've seen me use, is there for you. So if you are new to jewelry and you're just starting to collect things for your own little work table, that information is right there. So I'm just pushing that bead right up to where my orange meets. And I'm going to start wrapping with my blue for a little bit. So I'm going to do a lot of this off camera, because, I mean, how much wrapping can you watch a person do? And I'll come back in and touch base with you and show you my design decisions as I'm building this bracelet. Okay, there's where I'm at, and I've decided that I'm going to add in some pink. So when you're doing this and you're designing your bracelet or your necklace, you know, you can decide which strands you want to lay down when you start wrapping and which strands you want to add in. There's no right or wrong. just keeping in mind that you don't want things to get too thick where you know, where you can't wrap over, and you know, keep it consistent. So I've strung on like this little beaded ring that I made, and it's going to float here, and I've strung on some spacer beads and a check glass donut bead, and I'm going to wrap a little bit more here, and then, you know, keep adding in my rings as I get to the end of my length. So I'm just starting this pink color now. Same thing I've been doing. I added it in, and I'm going to start wrapping. And I realized when I was doing this also that wrapping for me was not a challenge, but I've worked with a lot of thread and a lot of, you know, things. So for me, it was really not a challenge. But if this is a challenge for you, I'm using my thumb to hold down what I've already wrapped. And then I'm using these two fingers, my ring finger and middle finger, to, you know, kind of keep my tension as I come around and I grab it again. So I just thought I would share that in case some of you are finding the wrapping. To me, it's the easiest part of this, but I realized in doing it that that might not be true for everybody. So I'm gonna, let me show you one more time. Thumb on the top here, forefinger beneath, and then I'm gonna lay those wraps right next to, and then I'm gonna grab that with my middle and ring finger, and then come around again and grab it, and come around again and grab it. And so, you know, it makes the wrapping really easy. And then every few wraps, I'm untangling my longer strands. So the other thing I'm doing is, you know, deciding what I want to float on my bracelet and what will actually be a stop bead. I love this funky glass ring because that's going to be great. It won't go anywhere from here. That's going to be like almost like a great stopper bead. So I think I'm going to thread on another one of these cylinder beads here, and then that cool glass bead. And you know, these bracelets, it's not very hard to get your color scheme right, because as you can see, it's just a rainbow of colors and your favorite colors. And I put more of my favorite colors like the pink and orange and yellow. There's more of that than there is blues and greens, because that's the colors that I love. So, and like my thread, this cylinder bead is just the right circumference inside to kind of transition to that pink. And you know, for like the color blocking, the blue is up here. So now I want to come down here, see how pretty that is, and pop that blue in again in a ring or, you know, something. So that's kind of how I'm designing my piece. Okay, this is how I ended up finishing my wrapping. So I really wanted to get those colors in, but I was kind of out of length. So I just crisscrossed on top of my purple wrap, and I had the yellow on one side and this fuchsia on the other side, and I tied a little bow, and I put a little GS Hypo cement everywhere around the bow so it's really secure, and I'm just gonna let it hang out on top like that. And on this end I may come and put just a little GS Hypo cement like right in between there, but I don't want to do it until I'm finished. So let's complete this this bracelet. The first thing I'm going to do is go ahead and get rid of these ends right here and go ahead and glue my end cap on. So I'm going to cut it not quite to where my wraps end. For this, I like to use gel Loctite super glue. You could also use E6000 glue here. It takes a little bit longer to set up. And I'm just going to about, you know, 3/4 of the way fill up my end cap, my cord end cap. I want to make sure this is really secure, but I don't want glue oozing all over my cords, because with especially, well, not so much with the cotton cord, but with satin cord or a lot of cords, the glue really shows. It almost stains it. So I'm going to go ahead and just push everything inside. And I want to line up my loops on this piece. So I want to have it so that my two loops are parallel to my mat. And now that can just hang out here and dry. And I'm going to take a length of my 1mm yellow Brazilian waxed cord. I didn't measure, I just took like half a wingspan, and I've made this little seed bead pattern. And you know, I just wanted to pull in the blue, and this is like a blue purple 6/0 seed bead, and I wanted to pull in a little bit of the orange and the gold, and that's going to be how I finish off my bracelet or get the rest of my length. So like I said, if you want to do your wrapping quite a bit shorter than the length bracelet that you will need, you can do this for the rest of the length, and it gives you this amazing like change in texture and shape, and another opportunity to add in some more beads to the wrapping. So I'm just putting that little pattern that I've strung right through that loop, and I'm going to bring it together like so. And I have that little beaded loop connecting. I want to make sure I don't disturb this until it's dry. So that little beaded loop connecting to my satin cord loop leading into my wrapping. And I'm going to come right here, make sure these ends on this side are pretty matched up so that I don't waste cord. And I'm going to do an overhand knot, pull that through, take my knotting tweezer, reach inside the loop, get a hold of both of my cords. I'm pushing down with my tweezers so that this loop is nice and tight, and these, you know, the beads are nice and tight, and then I'm just going to pull the strings, both cords, right down to the tip of my tweezer. Pull it out, and you can either use your tweezer or your fingers to push that knot right down into the beads. So it starts out looking like that, and from here we're just going to create a little pattern of beads. So behind that knot, I don't need as much extra length as I did on this one. So behind that knot, I'm going to put one of these vintage beads. These are vintage, I guess, looks to me like it's lamp work. I just love them. Like I said, I found them in a vintage shop, and I have some disc spacers here to play with. This is 1mm waxed cord. So again, just like with all the rings, really just looking for things that fit and then that you like the look of. So let me see. Oh, that's pretty. I have this larger one, but I think that one's going to be too large. I love the texture on that one, but I think it's going to be too large. And these are all a little bit irregular. They have this really handmade quality to the glass. What a find. I don't know if you guys can hear the lawn tools in the background. It's that day of the week. Look at that. Isn't that just beautiful? Okay, and then from here, I'm going to check my length. Just be careful because the Loctite does take a little bit of time to set up. Yeah, that is all the beading that I am going to need. That is literally all that I need to do. So I'm going to come here behind this and make another overhand knot and lock this down. And now I'm going to create another little loop, and my it's going to look like this. Let me show you. My toggle my handmade little toggle is going to attach to this end that we've glued, and it's going to go through this loop that we're going to create. So I am just going to separate these two strands and bead a little pattern. Okay, so it looks like that. I did the same thing on both strands, and I want to just share a little trick with you. If I were to come right here and do another knot here, can you see this doesn't make a ring? And I need a ring for my T-bar that I'm going to make to go through. So a little trick to make that go in a circle is to take a bead, and I'm going to use one of my vintage beads, and I'm going to string one side of my Brazilian waxed cord, pinch and twist, one side through the bead going in this direction. Pull this over here. Let me get it down here so you can see. I cut too much thread, but it doesn't go to waste. As you see, there's a lot of wrapping to be done. So one side is of my cord is going through the bead in that direction, and I'm going to take the other end and I'm going to put this through this bead, pinch and twist in this direction. Get these out of the way, just push it through. Okay, and now I'm going to pull, and see how it makes that be a circle. And so when I create my T-bar, you know, it's going to go through there. Okay, and so from here, I'm just going to complete this by making a funky little tassel on the end like I did here. So to do that, I think I'm going to do a gold seed bead on each side. I really like dotting things with gold. Okay, so I'm just going to push those down and gather this up and do the same thing. Overhand knot with both strands, reach inside the loop and get a hold of those strands right where I want my knot to be. When I pull, that knot goes right down to the tip of the tweezers, and then just lock it into place. This yellow Brazilian waxed cord has the heaviest coating of wax on it, so like your knots are like really in place. You know, different, not all cord is created equal. Some the coating is so light that you can't feel it on there at all, and this one is particularly heavy. So it looks like that, and now I'm just going to do an overhand knot this way a couple of times just to make sure that it's secure, and then I'm going to trim this and make a little fringiness here. Bring it back together in an overhand knot, and I'm going to just bring that overhand, the last one, back on top of my existing knot, just like that, just to make it really chunky on the end. Okay, now I can trim about like that, and this little bit of extra is perfect for wrapping, so I'll just put that inside my spool. And I'm going to take my knotting tweezer and just separate these fibers, make it fringy. Okay, we are ready to take our 20 gauge wire. Let me clean this up a little bit. We are ready to take our 20 gauge wire and make the T-bar. So I have a little piece of 20 gauge wire here, and I'm just going to take a moment to warm it and smooth it, and I'm going to use my 6-step bail making plier, and I need to make a loop that's pretty small right about in the middle. So I'm going to come to the middle of my bail making plier, and I'm just going to create a loop right in the middle of this wire. Okay, now that I have my loop, I'm going to do let me get a hold on to it again. I'm going to do a twist, almost like a sprinkler head. I'm going to just get a little twist in here, 2 or 3, just mostly for decoration. Just a really pretty twist. Okay, I'm happy with that. And I'm going to press this down. Okay, and while I'm holding it in my plier, I'm going to go ahead and get my T-bar formed a little bit. So I want this side to go in that direction in a little curve, and I want this side, go to my other hand, to go in this direction in a little curve. I'm just warming it and asking it nicely, hold on to it a little tighter, asking it nicely. So I'm kind of creating like a little, looks like a sprinkler, you know, the old-fashioned sprinklers. Obviously, I don't need all that wire. I am generous because I would prefer to have extra than run short. Okay, so now you can see, and at the end, I'll come in and straighten everything up. But I'm going to hold on to this and just really, let me show you what I'm looking at so you can see what I'm looking at. I'm looking at it this way. So my little twist is there, and I'm looking at it like that. I want just a pretty little swirl. So for me, I just go slowly, take my time, and coax the wire where I want it to be. So now I'm going to trim. Going to just eyeball it. I don't want this to be super big, but I do want to make some little curls. So I'm going to trim right there, save that piece of wire for a component, and that is a little bit longer, right about there. And now I'm going to take my round nose pliers and put a tiny little curl going in the direction that I already started. So I'm going to put a tiny little curl on this side, and I'm going to come over here and do one on this side going in the opposite direction. Just a really small one. So because this is a T-bar and I don't want it to snag on clothing and things, I make sure that these spirals are very tight. Like the cut end is really hidden in there. And I'm just going to push this toward my finger in small increments, just pushing it against my finger with the back side of my bent chain nose pliers. Just coming up here, and I need this T-bar to fit inside the seed bead loop that we made. So I can, you know, I need it to be a pretty small one. And I'm going to come to this side and do the same thing. Okay, I'm pretty happy with that. I'm going to straighten it up a little bit. And this is round wire, but I want to hammer it flat. So I hammered and textured this one, and I'm going to do that same thing again. So I'm just going to bring in my bench block, and I'm just going to put it like this. I don't want to hammer my loop, so I'm going to put it over the edge like that, and I'm going to use my riveting hammer and just flatten my wire. Turn it over, get both sides. And for those of you that are not familiar with like hammering, you change the molecules in the wire when you pound on it. So I'm going to misshapen what I just did but that's okay. If you don't over pound, it won't become too rigid, and you can go back and take your pliers and kind of reshape, do some hand sculpting, or just, you know, a little, like, I always have to fiddle with all my work until it's just perfect. Perfect for me. Little fish. I'm going to show you my choice for charms here when I'm done with the clasp. So see how we kind of spread things out and kind of made this a little bit funky. I do want to try to put some texturing on it too. I've flattened it now, so I'm going to take this this edge of my riveting hammer, this other end, and put some little bite marks in the wire. It will kind of mimic the diamond cutting that is on, did I use any? I didn't put any on there yet. These jump rings that I like so much. Okay, just a little bit of tidy up here with my pliers. And sometimes when I'm doing these, I will sit and make, you know, 2 or 3 of them just to see which one I prefer the shape of and which one I like the size of. They're very artisan, and when you hammer them, even more so. I'm just going to turn my little propellers and check to make sure that it will go through my loop, and it does, and see how it will sit. It does fit, and it gives this pretty little artisan touch. So I'm going to get out, let me remove these seed beads before they go everywhere. I'm going to get out some jump rings and attach that and choose my charms for this piece. So as I told you, I found the little articulated fish. It's a little set with 3 sizes. Aren't they cute? I don't know. I just love these little fishies. And I thought about doing the medium size. I also have these lampwork fishies in the most delightful colors, and these ceramic fish. And there's a whole plethora of colors in all of my little fish. And so I think I'm going to choose the little fishy. And I just need to choose a color for this one. I really like that pink one, but I like this color too. But I think I'm going to do pink. You guys know me. I have to have a pink fish. Put these guys away in my little fish box. Isn't it delightful? I mean, that is so sweet for summer jewelry to have little fishies. Okay, and jump rings. Okay, let's put this little fishy on a ball head pin. And I'm going to pop one of these little, I'm going to do a gold and then an orange seed bead in his mouth. Gold and then orange. So cute. And I'm just going to put a simple loop for him. Okay, just close up that loop really well. And so I'm going to use the smallest of my stainless steel diamond cut jump rings here, if I can find the opening. Can never find, oh, I got it. That's going to go on my glued on end cap, and then my handmade T-bar. And I'm going to close that really well. Look how pretty that is. And then it comes around to this side and pulls right through. Look at that. Isn't that just gorgeous? What a pretty, pretty closure. This bracelet is so unexpected as it goes around. This little beaded ring that I made is floating in just that area. And then these little beaded rings move around, but they stay right near the little bow. I mean, this is just So I told you at the beginning this was going to be happy, happy, happy. So I'm going to just find a couple of spots to add these larger jump rings for my two fish. And I think I'm going to come to this side where the orange thread is for my colorful fishy. I love that set of jump rings because of the 4 sizes. So like if I needed to go down, I could, but that acts as a perfect little stopper. So this will stay in this section right here. And then my goldfishy, he's going to go in the middle. He's going to go right here where I don't really have much busyness. This is so sweet and so fun. Oh my goodness. Okay, you guys, as always, I will put a lot of links in the description box and much better, closer pictures to these fabulous pieces. This was fun. It's happy. The colors are delightful. And I just couldn't be more thrilled with all the different ways to use essentially the same techniques. So I hope you got some inspiration out of this video, or some kind of an idea for something you can do on your own. And I hope everybody's drinking a lot of water and being safe this summer. And I will see you guys in the next video. Ciao, friends.